record on. Okay. Get rid of my little Google map here that's floating around. There we go. So I have a few websites pulled up already, so I can kind of demonstrate to you what a Google MyMap is. This is a Google property that you set up using Google. And of course, Google loves it when you add Google features to your website. So it always provides you with more SEO. And I'm going to keep this up over here so I can see when someone comes in. So it is an important thing that if you have enough sales, either representing buyers or sellers, in fact, if I were an agent, I would probably just maintain a Google My Map. I may not put it on my website until I feel like it's got enough people or enough sales on it. But if you maintain it over time, you're going to have enough properties that you've sold representing sellers or buyers to really make it effective. And this is a nice thing to have. I'm still letting people in from the waiting room, so let's just get them on board here. So this is a good example of a Google My Map that I have put on Kelly's website. And you can see it's just under her Sold by Kelly page on her website. And if I open this up, you'll see that you can see here's buyer represented and listings sold. So in the blue are buyer purchases, and in the gold are the listings that she has sold. And we can close that. And if we zoom in here, you can see the focus that she's had on in specific neighborhoods. So it's very effective in showing your density in specific neighborhoods. Christine, for example, Christine sells a lot of equestrian properties. So you can see where hers is outlined, but what it does is tell the story of selling where the ranches are, where the larger properties, equestrian properties are. And when you click on this, I can unclick the buyer purchases and close this, and then just look at the listings that she has sold. Or I can do just the opposite. I can look at just the buyer purchase where she has represented buyers only. So your visitor to your website can look and see what you've sold specifically. Let's take off the buyer purchase on Kelly's and just look at her listings that she has sold. I have another one over here that has the same thing, listings and buyer representation. And it looks like a big conglomeration, but when they zoom in, you can really see a focus. So how do you make this map and put it on your website? Here I'm just kind of demonstrating the need for it. It isn't the same thing as showing all the properties that you've sold. And what I mean by that is when some of you may have Real Scout pulling them in, some may have, let me put on her listings sold. The featured listings or sold listings are a program that is an add-on to the website that I built. So I'm just trying to demonstrate that for you. Let me see if I can pull that up on Christine's. there. So this is what the featured listings look like on the websites that I build. She doesn't have a lot of the images, but if I click on the read more, these are a couple that are coming soon, it looks like. This goes into a single property website where the other one does not. So you can see what that looks like. But when you go to the My Sales or the Home Sold, and you look at these in this light, you can actually create your own database. So let's click on a listing that she has sold. And you can see that it has the address, the MLS number, status, the days on market, city, list price, etc. And this is a database that you decide what you want on it. Some people only have the address, number of bedrooms and bathrooms, and whether or not they represented the buyer or the seller. They don't necessarily have to have all this stuff, but if you keep this in a spreadsheet, you can easily import it. If you don't have it in a spreadsheet, you can usually get it from your MLS. And I have never exported it out of MetroList. So if any of you are using MetroList, you may already know how to export out of MetroList, or you may have to go to someone at MetroList to show you how to do it, but I'm sure there's a way of doing it. So I'm going to look at Paragon real quick. And I'm going to go over here because this is CCAR, but I think Barry's and Bridge MLS and Bay East all use Paragon. Is that right? Does anybody know the answer to that? Mostly I'm questioning whether or not Barry's uses Paragon. I'm pretty sure it's the same. It's all Paragon. So what we're going to do is go to our search, residential. Boy, they've made this very springy up there. And it comes up with a little spread or a little form. But what we want to do is add some fields. So the fields I want to add is the listing agent. Let's see. Let's go back up here. Buyer agent. Do I already have buyer agent in here? I do. Listing and buyer agents. If you don't have those over here in your primary criteria, you may have to download them. Or you may have to add them from over here. Once you have them added from this list over here, and if there's anything else that you want in your spreadsheet, like the HOA fee or anything like that, you can put it in your spreadsheet. So you just need to be able to add them over here and then just say apply. And we're going to go over here and do the ones where we represented the sellers first. So I'm just going to put in a name here. Here he is. And it'll give me a count of how many listings he sold. And this is then I'm just going to say search. And keep in mind, this should be for the lifetime you've been with this MLS. So these should go all the way back. And when I look up here, it does not have the close. Oh, it does have the closing date. We want to make sure we have a closing date because that's a sort feature. And we don't necessarily want the canceled ones, but that's all right. We're going to go ahead and export this into a CSV file. So export to CSV, export. And if you have questions, don't hesitate to chime in and ask questions. So I'm just going to go ahead and say Joe G. listing agent properties. And I'm going to say new search. And then I'm going to put his name in the buyer. And again, it's going to give me a count of how many properties. And then I'm going to say search. And I've got a closing date, so that's important. And I'm just going to export it. Name it the same thing, or I'm going to say buyer's agent property. So now I've got two spreadsheets. One is for the buyer, one is for the listing agent. So what you want to do is you take this Excel spreadsheet, and it won't work unless we've got the city in with the address. So I usually, and I'm just going to show you this real quick because you need to know how to use your, I don't need this column, so I can get rid of that. There we go. You need to know exactly how to use, you need to know how to use the spreadsheet. If you don't, I don't know what to tell you. So we're going to actually go in here and we're going to highlight our area and we're going to sort by city. So we're going to go up to data and sort by city. Okay, so now I know these are all Antioch. So I'm going to put in comma Antioch, California. And I don't care how you do this. This is just the way I do it. I just copy and paste. But you have to have the city and state. You don't have to have the zip code in here. And then we have Concord is next. I'm going to copy all the way back to the comma. It does have to have the comma in there as a delineator. And you get the idea. Then we get into Crockett and El Sobrante and Hayward. So now we're going to, once we have all those put in, I'm not going to bother doing them all right now. We're going to go back and resort this by closing date. And we want newest to oldest and say, okay. And then over here, I'm going to say represented. And this is the buyer one. So I'm going to say buyer. Copy that and put it all the way down. Now, if you're working on the sold list, and let me open the sold list here. Oops. Here it is right here. Sorry about that. Anything that didn't sell or was canceled or whatever reason, the transaction was not complete, just delete that one. And then do the same thing on this one. Make sure that you have the city and state under in the address as well. And then go sort it by your closing date, newest to oldest. And what we're going to do with those spreadsheets, once you have those two exports, you're done with Paragon. We'll get out of there. Or your MLS, whatever MLS that you use. Now we're going to go over here and we're going to add, we're going to search on Google MyMap. And we're going to go to the sign in. Make sure you're signed in as yourself up here. And then we're going to say create a new map. So now we can title it. And let's call it oops. We're trying to title it. And I would add an SEO description in here. If you don't have one, make sure that you do. Because this is important for your search engine optimization. There we go. And hit save. So always make sure that you have some kind of description in there describing what you do. So here we can create a layer. So we're going to say, let's get rid of this layer. Now we're going to add a layer. And we're going to say import. And we're going to select a file from our device. Let's see if I have this one ready to go. I may have to go back and just bear with me a quick second here. I'm going to go back to city. Let me do the Walnut Creek ones. Oops. I'm just going to get a couple more in here and delete the ones that we don't need. So if you have like 300 properties, this may take you a while to do this part. That's why I say it's nice to get this up to date and then maintain it as you go. Let me put in Oakley here. We've got one more and we're good to go here. And I'm going to show you how to do the buyers, but you do the sellers the exact same way. So we'll just do one for now, Crockett. All right, so we're going to hit save on this one. Make sure that we are sorted by date, and we are. So, and we are saved as a CSV file, and we are. So save. All right, so let's get rid of this now. Now we're back to importing into our Google My Map. We're going to select our file. And it's going to ask us, choose which column do we want to use for our place marks. And we always want to use the address because it's a map, right? And we just spent all that time putting the address into the form that Google will like to see. So again, we're going to select address as our title markers and say finish. And you can see it's importing those now. So this is the properties. And we can now go and say, add the layer. We're going to add the title because these are buyer purchases. Hit save. Oh, it added a layer. Rename this layer. I'm just going to call it buyer so I can get rid of this line. Now let's rename this line. Okay, so now we have all of our properties in here, and we're going to add a marker. So let's use the little house. You can make it whatever color you want, purple, I don't care. Red, orange, whatever you want to do. Now you can say add a layer and upload. Let's upload another one. This is going to be seller. You want to name it something that's not necessarily only something another real estate agent's going to understand, but your viewers are going to understand. And you may want to say seller's home sold or something that is going to make sense to them. They may not be as familiar with the word listings as you guys all are. So now we have buyer purchase and listings. So let's import this one. I'm just going to import any list that I have here. Let's see. I know I have. We're going to go right here to Christine. And here it is, her listing. And again, we're going to say address, continue, address, finish. And it's going to add all of her listings up here. Okay. So now we can go down here and make it the house icon again and put in a new color. Let's put in turquoise just for fun. So now you have your map made, and you're going to notice that when you click on this, look at your database that you just created with that spreadsheet. That's pretty awesome. So you've got this, and you can maintain this, and you can also export it. But let's say I have, I'm doing this one at a time, not as a huge import. If I wanted to add I can add, edit this. I can add a photo for that house. I can edit the information. All we do is click on that. And if I want to say sold, or if I want to say like a fifth of an acre instead, I can do that and hit save. I can also add an image from my computer if I want to add an image. And you can also add more than one image. You can just keep adding more images. So let's say you want to put 4 or 5 images. Now you may not want to go back on the homes that you've already sold and do that. And you may want to only do that on your listings, but even if you start with your more recent ones that you may have the images that you paid for from the photographer, you may want to add 3 or 4 listings in here. The more information you put in here, the better. So I'm just going to hit save on that one. And again, each one of these has its own little database in here. And all that just came from your spreadsheet, okay, that you created coming out of Paragon. Now we want to get it to a nice level that you can see all the listings. And we're going to go up here and we're going to hit set default view. Now I'm going to go back up here and I'm going to say embed on my website. Oh, I have to take it public first. So let's go to share. So now we are sharing the website online. And we need to go to embed on my website. And we say, do a Control-C and say, okay. So I have it on my website. I mean, I have the embed code. Now, if I go to, let's just go to a website here. We'll go to my own website. And we're going to go and create a new page, a blank page. Thank you. Say homes sold, for example, done. Or sold by Diane or sold by Jay, whatever you want to call it. And you can add a banner if you want to add a strip up here. Let's go to a strip. You can add any kind of strip you want. You may want to add something like this and edit the text on here. Get rid of that. Let's add a blank strip. There we go. I'm going to stretch this blank strip out a little bit. Now we're going to go back here to add, and we're going to add embed widget, an HTML code. So we're going to enter that code that we just copied from Google My Map and say update. Now I like to change the width and height of these. So 960 by 720, I think is a little more visible. So that's just taking the numbers that is in the height and the width and multiplying times 1.5, and that'll give you your proportion. So we're going to hit update. We're going to stretch this out. So we don't see the scroll bars. There we go. And let's see, I can pull this down a little bit more. And I can add a text, a heading right here. And whenever you're doing text, you've got a whole editor over here. So if you don't like the font, change the font. Nobody cares. But the font should match what you have going, the theme that you have in your website. I don't care for huge ones. And you can also center them, and then you can make your box smaller. And then go over here. Oops, let's get rid of that and center it on your page. You can add another little paragraph in here if you choose, explaining that the blue is our listings that you sold, and the orange is the ones where you represented the buyer, and et cetera. But there you have it. You have your map list right on your website. You can change this background on the strip. Let's go find a house.
Patsy?
Yeah.
Is that map dynamic? In other words, can the viewer
Yes.
Zoom in on that map on the website?
Yes, and every time you maintain that map and add another listing, it's going to update that map. So yes, as long as you're maintaining it through Google MyMaps, it will constantly update this. So yes, it is dynamic. So anytime I'm over here adding another property, so if I want to add a single property, now that I've got all my history put in, so let's put in let's put in a new property that you just sold. So I put in the address up here in the search bar. And I represented the seller on this property. So I'm going to make sure that the seller is checkmarked, but I'm going to uncheck the buyer one because I just want to add it to the seller listings. And I'm going to say add to map. Now I'm going to edit all this. And I could put in the MLS. I could put in sold, 9 days on the market, Walnut Creek. I sold it for $1 million. Make sure you know if there's dollar signs and stuff in there. I'm pretty sure there are. 175,000. This is also a way, especially on your listings, if you have a list price and a sold price, to highlight that you sold almost all your most recent ones sold over list price. So it's this can tell many different stories. It depends on the story that you're trying to tell with this. So let's say the sold price is $1,850,000. Oops, I got too many dollar signs in there. And the square footage was 2,600 or 26,000. This is an office building. I'm going to take it out of here. Don't worry about it. 5 beds, 5 baths, 1992 on 0.8 acres. And you could either have the square foot of the lot or the acres. Depends on what's in your spreadsheet. If you delete the columns for acreage and lot square footage, it's not going to be in your database. You don't have to have the MLS up here either. So hit save. And if you look down here, you can see uniform style. Let's go to individuals. And you see the new listing right here at the bottom. And you can go back to uniform style. You can add labels too. So if you want to add the label as the address, that's fine. You can do that as well. I think that's also very good to have. So if we look at, let's go out. If I now click on one of these, you're going to see how the title is up here, and it's just the address. I think it's always good to put in the title if you choose to do that. You don't have to do that. Let's go ahead and put in a title on this one as well. And you see the title come up here. And then you can also reset your default view. And you can get your embed code. You can print your map, you can open your map, you can get your link and just send it to people. You can share it by going here and sharing it to individuals. If you copy this link, you can then paste it into an email and say, look at all the properties I've sold. But this is just a different way of telling a story. And if you look at a lot of the websites that we actually use this on, it's all a matter of focusing, showing the density within neighborhoods and selling or building that reputation for that agent as a specialist in particular neighborhoods. Like this is Pleasant Hill. So look at how many homes she sold in this particular community of Pleasant Hill. It's a lot. So even if you start off with a few, building this map up and maintaining this map can really serve you 3, 4, or 5 years down the road. Because even if you don't have enough really to show on your website right now, you don't want to show something that's going to maybe have a negative impact on you. But when you get enough properties under your belt, showing it in this format can really help you, help your reputation for a particular area. So that's pretty much it. If you don't have one of my websites, embedding it on your website would be kind of the same thing. You're just using iframe. And if you don't know how to manage your website, you may have to ask someone to help you with that, whoever built your website. But if you have one of mine, I just showed you how to do it. So I'm going to stop my recording here.